Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we have Dr. Mark Menolascino here, and he's talking about his book, Heart Solution for Women. So, welcome, Dr. Should I call you Dr. Melancino? Because I do it
Everyone
so
calls me
well.
Dr. Mark. Everyone calls me Dr. Mark. It's just easier.
Dr. Mark. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark. You just don't want to have me continually butcher your name. It's just awful. Okay, so we're here talking about women's health, and I wanted to start talking to you about heart. And I know that you talk about heart, brain, gut, and genes as some critical factors for women. Tell me a little bit about why heart, brain, gut, and genes, and why books specifically on heart.
Well, my mentor was Dean Ornish, and when I was in high school, he came to Omaha, Nebraska, where I was from, and said he was going to take 100 men, because all studies are done on men, right?
Hmm.
That had heart attacks, had heart blockages, and was going to teach them how to eat right, exercise right, deal with stress, and they were going to do better than people who had a bypass surgery.
Hmm.
And guess what? He was right. His group did better and has done better. And it just taught me that there's a different way to approach things like heart health. And women's heart health, more women die of heart disease than all cancers combined. And we don't assess it right, we don't address it right, and it gets missed a lot. So I
Hmm.
really want to raise the awareness that we just need to do a better job for women's health overall, but particularly for women's heart health.
Hmm. Wait, so I want to go back to the statistics. So you said in terms of all cancers, there's more. Are you saying among women or just generally speaking? I just want to make sure I understand.
It's actually in general, but particularly for women. And thank goodness we're doing such a good job raising the awareness of breast cancer and other cancers, but more women die of heart disease than all cancers combined.
Wow, that's fascinating
No
because
one knows
because
that.
I always think of like the things that you mentioned, heart cancer, ovarian cancer, like those are kind of like women issue, the biggest women issues, but it's heart disease.
It's heart disease. And
Wow,
it's preventable. That's the message, is you can
right.
find people who are at risk and you can prevent it from happening.
Right. Well, so I, for almost 2 years, we have a gentleman named Lee Hood, who is part of systems biology, and he was the founder of Genentech, and he firmly believed that a lot of problems like heart disease, a lot of medical issues that you have later in life are completely preventable. And if you can just look at someone's genes, you can actually get a sense of what they're predisposed to having issues with. So I went and I got, I don't even know how many vials of blood. I want to say it seemed like 17 vials, but it seems like that may be an exaggeration. But it felt
No,
like I was like, how much blood is even in me? And she just kept on pulling one vial after another. And I had panels of, I think probably about 15, 20, 30 different genetic tests. And the one for me that was the most, that was the only thing like gotta watch was heart
Hmm.
disease. So much like you're saying, and I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, heart disease, based on all of your genetics. That's the thing. And so when we were speaking earlier, you were saying, well, that's actually the interesting thing because it's even though the genetics make me predisposed, what's the good news about epigenetics now?
Well, thank you for asking that. And you're right about the genetics. And I know Lee Hood, he's one of the gurus in our field. But the message for everyone out there is that you're not doomed to be your parents or your grandparents. You have the power at the end of your fork to change your genetic destiny. There's genes you can turn on that are good, and there's genes that are bad you can turn off based on your lifestyle choices. And that's what you were mentioning about epigenetics. You can change the way your genes express. Now, there are some things that are fixed, like Down syndrome is a chromosome abnormality. You can't change that. But your risk for certain cancers, your risk for certain diseases, most diseases lifestyle based. And if you know what your risk is and you're empowered with someone that can help you understand those choices, then you can change your genes. Jeff Bland, who's the founder of functional medicine, states that genes load the gun, your lifestyle choices pull the trigger. And
Hmm.
I love that because you really have the ability to change your outcome.
Hmm. So, and actually, I don't want to misrepresent. That was all of what Lee Hood was talking about. Is that, you let's actually look at your genetics and then see what kinds of lifestyle changes you can do through exercise, nutrition, and education so that you can actually live a different lifestyle so that you're not doomed
Right.
to have diabetes or doomed to have a heart disease or doomed to actually have other types of problems that people who get older have. So when you actually look at the genetic piece for yourself, like what are the genes, what's the genetic piece that you're looking at?
Well, there are genes that predispose, like the ApoE, which is related to particularly dementia. And there's a certain
Mm,
pattern, the 4-4, that you're 5 to 15 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's with that genetic
mm,
predisposition. But there's people who have those genes that never develop it. And
mm.
that's what we're trying to sort out is what's unique about them and what are the choices that they've made or unknowingly made that we can learn from to help all of us. And it really, at the end of the day, toxicity is a big part of this.
Hmm.
Again, it's the information that bathes over your genes. And if you bathe your genes in toxic information, both chemical and emotional and stress wise, that all of those play a part in it. And that's why we have so much to learn from each other and from lifestyle medicine to be able to turn on good ones and turn off bad ones.
Okay, so when you said that, I assume toxics are things like the air that I breathe. So, like in the state of Washington, we had fires, and I'm just breathing in toxic fumes. Those kind of environmental toxins that are external to us, and then there are also internal toxins that I manufacture for myself. So I get
We all
stressed out about my kids. I get worried about X, Y, Z, and so basically, it's the internal and external toxins that you have to be aware of, and that actually shape genetics.
They really do. And, we know that women live longer than men because they're social creatures. And there's a socialness to this, there's a love part of this. And it's not just the chemical toxicity. Interestingly, the forest fires, it's mercury that a lot of the trees expel. And the mercury levels are very, very high. And we think of mercury
Interesting.
in fish and thermometers and those type of things, but it can be all over. And we
Mm,
know that this epidemic of type 2 diabetes or diabetes later as a young adult or later in life is really toxin driven. And if we can
mm.
avoid the toxicity, we can avoid the diabetes.
Right, both internal and external
Yeah.
toxicity. Wow, that's really interesting. And are there certain things that are, I can't, well, I hope to not have other forest fires, but it may be, environmental conditions are going to continue changing, sadly. So, what are some things I can do? Like, what are some simple things that are like easy fixes? Like, oh, Dr. Mark, I can't do that much. So, tell me what are three things I can do?
Well, we can't live in a bubble, right? And so we're going to be exposed. They say the average woman leaves the house with over 120 chemicals applied to her body.
Wow.
So the first thing you can do is look at what you're putting on your body, your shampoos, your soaps, your skincare, all of the things, and try to clean those up for yourself and especially for your kids. And you talked about stress being toxic. Well, stress might actually be good because it got both of us out of bed to come to work today. But
Right.
it's how we internalize stress. And a great story, CJ, is it snowed 4 feet a couple years ago. And the first woman came in and said, I love it when it snows like this. It's so beautiful. The trees, the mountains, they're gorgeous. The very next person walked in and said, I hate these snowstorms. I'm going to slip and fall and break my neck.
Right.
So the same two external stressors had two dramatic internalizations. So it
Right.
may not be the external stress, it's what it does to us and what we allow it to do.
Yeah. I wonder if you looked at like Buddhist meditators, if you looked at, what their, it would be so fascinating to take someone who's like extremely calm, has led a completely contemplative, meditative existence, and you look at their genes that they're predisposed to and do it, and see before and then after. I don't know if you can even do that or not, but it would be
You
interesting
can,
to
it's
see.
been done. You can
Yeah.
see the good genes get turned on and you can see the bad genes turn off. Dean Ornish just did that with prostate cancer for men.
Hmm.
He showed that a lifestyle based medicine plan turned on good genes and turned off bad genes. So we know we can express those based on the information we bathe over them. It's
Okay.
such an exciting time.
Yeah, and there's so much out there for stress reduction. But for things that for women, so I don't even know how many chemicals I've applied at this juncture in my life. But I had like some like serum, vitamin C serum, I put a lotion, I put a sunscreen, I wash my hair, I condition my hair, I'm putting body lotion on. So I know like no sulfates. Know that. What other kinds of things should I be looking at the labels to just try to eliminate, all the layers of things I put on myself to look beautiful, quote unquote.
Well, it's interesting because one of the hidden sources of all that is medications and supplements. So the first thing you should do
Mm.
is turn over your vitamins and look at the other ingredients. You'll see a lot of
Mm.
parabens and phthalates and food additives, food dyes, preservatives, and we don't think about those in our kids' medication. There's a reason that medicine you give for a fever from a vaccine is red, and it's not usually a natural berry
Mm.
flavor. It's usually a dye and a binder, and a lot of vitamins have those in there. So it's something to really watch out for. A lot of
Yeah.
these chemicals are in places you wouldn't expect.
I wouldn't have thought in supplements. So, if I look at my turmeric, hopefully it's just turmeric, but who knows what the heck why it's so bright orange. I mean, I'm hoping it's just turmeric. But you're saying look for dyes, parabens, and phthalates.
Yeah,
Phthalates?
there's kind of grocery store supplements and vitamins. There's health food store, which are a little cleaner. Then there's what we call pharmaceutical, and that's what we use in our practice.
Hmm.
They're just cleaner. And the first thing you should do is just turn it over and look at the other ingredients. And it's just interesting how many are in medications. Do you know there's only one pharmaceutical company in the world that's organic, non-GMO?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so a lot of the medications, that's called Genexa. There's a lot of medications that many people are taking that have lactose in them, that have gluten in them, that again have these dyes and fillers and preservatives.
Wow.
They have no idea.
Wow. So how do I find a pharmaceutical grade? Like, do I just go into Amazon and type pharmaceutical grade supplements, or how do I find these things?
Well, the internet is a double-headed monster because
Hmm.
it makes things easy for us to find, but you never really know where it comes from, how it was stored. And that's why I suggest you have a relationship with a healthcare practitioner that knows food is medicine, kitchen's your pharmacy, lifestyle's your doctor. And when you need targeted supplements, they're just that. They're supplemental to your nutrition. But sometimes you need those to move the needle with an illness. And if you are going to take something, find the very best that you can. And they're typically provided for by professional practitioners,
Hmm.
chiropractors, naturopaths, MDs that are doing nutritional or functional medicine.
So I have like, so I also, in addition to putting 500 creams on my face, I take, I should show you my little pills. I think there's like turmeric, vitamin D, um, fish oil, multivitamin, calcium. What the heck else is in there? I think that those are at least five
Now,
that I know.
TJ, that's my big five. I think
Magnesium, that's
people
the other.
benefit from those. Most women benefit from those five things.
Hmm.
That would make a lot of sense. And we just don't get what we need in our food today. Our
Yeah,
food, our soils are depleted, our food
yeah,
is depleted,
yeah, I
and
know.
there's toxicity in our food. And it's all about clean food, clean air, clean water. It's almost impossible to get all of that on a daily basis.
Right. So I went, and when I was asking my nutritionist, she said, go to this one place that they actually rate whether what's in there is really in there. But what she didn't say, what I'm now picking up is like, and what else is in there, right? Like
Yes.
maybe like yes, it said that there is 100% vitamin D or whatever. I don't know what the right wording is. And in fact, what's purported to be in the thing is actually in the thing. Do you
Yeah.
trust those services? Do you know which ones I'm
No, I
talking about?
really, I, I don't trust anybody when it comes to my client's health. I'm an open-minded skeptic. I'm open to everything.
Right.
I'm kind of skeptical of everybody until I know that it's something that's good quality and it's safe for people. A great example, CJ, is fish oil. A lot of people come in their fish oil and they'll hold it out here to open it because it smells rancid.
Oh,
So if your fish oil
no.
smells, it's already rancid. It's actually worse for you than taking good fish
Oh,
oil.
no. Oh,
And so
no.
again, that's one of the great examples of how there's just low quality products on the market. And if you get it from a store because it's on sale, then you can be doing yourself a
Oh,
disservice.
no. Okay.
The Attorney General of New York State went into 5 big box stores and pulled 50 supplements off the shelves, 4 out of 5 had none of what they said in it.
Yeah.
It was a bottle of ginkgo biloba that was actually radish powder.
Oh
So you
no.
super careful, and people are trying to make good decisions for their health, and there's not always good decisions out there for you to make.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna zoom backwards to reverse backwards. We're talking about the heart, and you're saying you said some really interesting things about you went to the Dean Ornish presentation, and he talked about men's heart health, but not necessarily women's heart health. And and in the first couple chapters of your book, you talk about how women are neglected in this whole medical community. Why? They're 50, we make up 50% of the population.
Well,
Why have we been neglected?
I think there's a lot of things we do in women's health that we can do better. And you know what's have you ever seen a man have a heart attack in a movie or on TV? Yes, we all have. You ever seen a woman?
No, yeah.
No.
That's
And women present differently.
right.
They don't have that elephant on the chest feeling that men do when they have a heart attack. It can be anxiousness, it can be dizziness, it can be nausea or vomiting. The day my book got accepted for publication, I watched Grey's Anatomy. And Bailey, the chief surgeon, was taking her husband to work, got chest pain, went to a different hospital ER, told him she was having a heart attack. They thought maybe she was just anxious or having too much stress. She got evaluated. Her tests weren't absolutely clear, which a lot of times women's or heart tracing or labs are not. So she saw the ER doctor. He started asking about her husband, her marriage, her kids, her stress at work. She's chief of surgery, for gosh sakes. And she
The
said,
woman is the
"You're not."
chief of surgery that's like, I have a heart
This was
attack?
the TV show
Oh,
Grey's Anatomy.
in the movie. Okay, got it.
Now it's a TV show, but we see this in real life. And so she asked for a second opinion, expecting a cardiologist, and she got a psychiatrist.
Oh, no.
Minutes later, she has a heart attack. And again, I saw women come to the hospital with these vague complaints, get labeled as something else when it was actually their heart. So if you think it's your heart and you get checked out, you're never wrong. If you think it might be your heart and they don't listen to you, they might be dead wrong. The problem for women is they're more likely to die from a heart attack than a man is. There's a higher rate of these sudden death heart attacks. And CJ, two of the three of your friends will have a heart attack in their lifetime. 2 of the 3. And the first warning sign for half of them, their first symptom is sudden death. You don't get a second shot in half the people who have a heart attack. So it's really is that serious. And women just present differently. Our tests are not that great at detecting it and or treating it.
So the doctors don't know. So like in that Grey's Anatomy, and in fact, you actually have a story in your book that you talk about someone who thought that, I think, was it a kidney stone? They're like, a gallbladder surgery, and you're like, okay, I'm about to do a gallbladder surgery, and you're like, wait a second. I mean, tell me the story. Tell us the story.
Well, as a resident, you come on and you do these crazy 36-hour shifts, and you come on and take care of people that were taken care of by the team before you. And there was a woman who came in for nausea and vomiting. Her tests weren't really conclusive, but the team before me decided it was her gallbladder, and she was scheduled for surgery. No one thought it could be their heart. So we did a heart tracing and the lab test, and she'd been having a heart attack for the last 2 days.
And
So
so
she
she's been
probably
having a
would have
heart
died.
attack for the last 2 days. How can someone
Yes.
even have a heart attack for 2 days straight? I read that and thought, what?
And she was having nausea and vomiting for 2 days, but it was actually her heart causing it, not her gallbladder.
Wow. Okay, so she's that 1/3 that doesn't result in sudden death. She's actually presenting as a heart attack, but it's actually happening over a 3-day period. And had you operated on her, would she have died?
She would have. And I saw many women, not a lot, but I saw women, especially women more than men, that had these pre-operative evaluations with stress tests and then would have a heart attack during their surgery because the stress of surgery was more than them running on a treadmill.
Wow.
And, because again, our tests just weren't set up. And there's a trifecta we talk about in the book that you have to get the right blood tests, and most doctors don't even know about them, let alone are able to order them.
Mm-hmm.
There's the right kind of stress test, and for women, it's a stress test with the echo ultrasound. Then there's a new CIMT ultrasound test of the neck that will tell you if you have plaque or not. If we do all 3 of those on women, they essentially cannot be vulnerable to this heart attack risk. We can find the canaries in the coal mine.
So why don't people just do that automatically? You know, the blood test, that seems pretty simple. The stress test, echo, maybe they don't have the equipment. I don't know. And the ultrasound neck thing, maybe, I mean, they should have the equipment for that. So
So
why,
next time you go to your doctor, ask them if they know about myeloperoxidase, plaque 2, a fractionated cholesterol test, and they probably don't. We're not taught this in med school, and you have to
uh,
do further education to know about this is the cutting edge of medicine, which is why I love functional medicine, because we're looking at a personalized precision approach to you. It's not the bell-shaped curve of average where we regress you as a unique individual to a population. Because what's our average in America? It's diabetic and obese. Do you really want to be average?
right.
You want the doctor who thinks about you unique. I call it the N of one.
Mm-hmm.
You're the
Mm.
only person in front of me, and I need all that information to make general decisions, but I need to make a decision about you based on you and get the right information about you.
Okay, so what are the presenting? And so one of the listeners asked, like, well, what do I, because you talked about stress and anxiety. Like, I feel that, like, you know, maybe 2 times out of a week. So now I'm now like, oh, maybe I'm going to have a heart attack. Like, how do I know if I'm having a heart attack or just feeling stressful and anxious? Like, what are the other symptoms I should look for?
Well, it is hard to know. And again, there are blood tests that can predict those people who are at risk. And if you think that you are at risk for heart, you should get checked out by your doctor. And these type of tests I mentioned, none of them are radiation based. They're not that expensive. And it's something that when you don't have the markers, your risk is so small that if you have further symptoms, the likelihood of it actually being a problem is as close to zero as we're ever going to get.
I see. Okay, so it's the blood tests, the stress tests, and the ultrasound neck tests. So ask, like, I would like to have these tests because I want to see if I'm predisposed to having a heart attack. So that's one. Just like if I'm predisposed, and if I do have those symptoms of anxiety and stress, like I have to really ask myself, am I having a heart attack or not? But how would I differentiate normal anxiety and stress from a heart attack stress?
And it is hard. And think how hard it must be for a doctor who's never met you in the emergency room.
Mm,
And so it's hard for everybody. And that's why I think prevention is the key. We should be looking for these people. We've all had friends that were super fit women, went to yoga every day, ate organic, and dropped dead of a heart attack or had a stroke. And we all scratch our, and their cholesterol was normal. And we all scratch our head and say, how can that be? Well, half the heart attacks happen to people with normal cholesterol.
wow.
Well, so it's not about cholesterol, it's about the particles. And I talk about the big bouncy ones and the small sticky ones.
Hmm.
You can separate your cholesterol into the dangerous and non-dangerous ones. But at the end of the day, CJ, most disease is about inflammation. So it's the fire in the heart, it's the inflammation in the heart that really drives the heart disease, not so much the cholesterol.
Okay, so tell me how LDL particles and inflammation, are they related or not?
They are, and there's a particular one that's really important for women called lipoprotein A. And that's just a fancy name for a small sticky marble with a nasty inflammatory tail on it. And that's the most likely risk factor for women. If that one's highly positive, your risk of a stroke or heart attack is up to 10 times higher,
Eek.
regardless of your family history.
Oh, I
And there
think
are
I
ways.
have that. Because I think when I
Well,
was looking at my blood, I was actually just looking at the heart health from the Lee Hood, and they talked about like particleized something or other. And my number is, so they have a green, yellow, red.
yeah, of course
I'm
they do.
yeah, so I'm kind of like it was high and it's going down over time. But it was high. It wasn't red high. It was like yellow, between the yellow and green high. So that's an example of, and that was something they did through a simple blood test that they could see, like, where is your, I can't remember, it's like micronized LDL.
Your
Is that what?
fractionator or the small dense ones, the small sticky ones.
Yeah,
And that brings up a great point is that you are not one marker. It's a pattern.
right.
We're not this Rene Descartes reductionist approach where we break us into the smallest pieces. That's what medicine's been trying to do.
Ah,
And
okay.
it fails miserably at chronic issues. It's great for acute care medicine. When you have pneumonia, take an antibiotic. When you have a heart blockage, balloon it up and put it and fix it. But for chronic issues like diabetes, obesity, autoimmune, arthritis, the acute care model does not work very well. And so
Hmm.
we have to look at people as a system, not these individual pieces we're going to fix. It's not
Ah,
plug and play. It's how the whole pattern is in you. So two women can have a great example, CJ, is two women have cholesterol very high at 250. Their bad cholesterol is high at 150. One is eating fast food every day, sitting on the couch, doesn't exercise, has uncontrolled stress. The other lives probably the way you do. Are those women the same risk based on those numbers? Because we have a calculated score we pigeonhole people into to make a decision of what to do with them. I don't think that kind of medicine works anymore. We have to think about what's your story, what's your whole pattern, how does the whole system work together? And this systems approach is really what Lee Hood was talking about. It's a systems approach to health, not this individual piece of it. You've
Right,
got to look at
right.
the parts of it, but put them together.
Ah,
To,
okay. So I kind of was subjected to the, oh my gosh, like all my numbers are actually really good. Yay. Because I've been really looking at looking at my nutrition and health and taking the supplements. And so they were all good and they were all going down except this one. And I was like, why isn't that getting in the green zone? But it's like on the green and yellow zone. So it's actually been chunking down. Um, but what you're saying is don't focus on micro focus. That's like it's my sleep, it's my stress level, it's a whole bunch of things outside of just this one micro. But we're so tuned to thinking that way. I'm like hypnotized, and I believe in the hypnosis.
they make it worse, right? And
Yeah,
what they do is they use the stoplight model. They put
yeah,
some in green, some in yellow, then the ones in red. You don't see anything but the red one.
right. Yeah,
And so it's a psychological trap, but it
yeah.
does work.
It does work. Well, it made me think, well, I better figure out what's going on with my heart. So I like eat a ton of fiber and like, working out, eat less. Like when I saw those reports, it completely changed my lifestyle because I thought, okay, no more juicy hamburgers and pork and steak. Like, I could like heart attack, juicy hamburger. I'm like, okay, low fish and chicken, and tofu. But it was simply just looking at those stats. I thought, well, I mean,
It's so great because there's people like yourself that are providing all of this great information. And really, who are the healthcare providers in the world? It's the women of the world. They're the ones that take care of the kids and the men in our world.
yeah,
But there's so much great information. And I feel like what we're doing is we're providing information to empower you with knowledge, to help you make good choices in your health based on your belief system and your health goals.
right.
That's what a good doctor does is help you down that path and provide you the information. And there's so much great content out there like what you're doing. It's so cool to see that this tide of health is changing. This
Yeah.
chronic health model is changing because people are becoming self-empowered.
Yeah, my son said to me, "Well, just because a doctor says it doesn't mean that it's so. You need to do your own research." I'm like, "Who is this child?" he's like
I think
17
he's
years
right,
old.
actually.
But he's absolutely right. And I'm curious, when you think about a doctor's agenda versus a woman's agenda, what do you think are, what's happening? What's the mismatch? And yeah, and I'll just add a little story. I have a bunch of friends. I went to Duke University, so I have a lot of friends who are now medical doctors. One of them who said that she now cries, like she has a practice of pediatricians, and this is sad. They all cry once a week. At least one of them cries from the overwhelming amount of paperwork and the inability to actually spend a lot. Like the system doesn't allow them to spend time with their clients, and so like half the meds she wants to offer meds, but she can't because the insurance won't cover. All this kind of crazy thing. So I mean, what is the doctor's agenda and how is that helpful or not helpful for women?
Well, it's not the doctor's fault. There's great doctors, like I'm sure some of your friends, there's great doctors out there
Yeah,
that
they're
want,
all great doctors.
but the system's broken. I was taught in my residency on my 36th hour of my shift to see a person every 7 minutes. And when you're in that model, all you're doing is thinking, what prescription am I going to give them? The average doctor interrupts their client within 11 seconds of them speaking. In my practice, you get an hour with me, and my first question is, tell me your story. And that may last 5 minutes, it may last 60 minutes, but I want to hear your story. I want you to feel like you've been heard.
Mm,
And for me, the smartest person in the entire room is a woman's intuition.
hmm
So many women come in and they know what's going on with them, but I'm the fifth doctor they've seen because no one took the time to listen. So I don't think it's the doctor's fault. It's the system is broken, and we're reimbursing for acute care. We're reimbursing for medications, and I think the whole system is broken. And I feel like we're now shifting because the consumer is becoming empowered, saying we want a better way, we want better care, we want doctors to listen to us, and we're maybe willing to pay a little extra for that rather than go out for a fancy meal or have the latest iPhone or the latest shoes. It's people making these choices about their health, and I think we're empowering them with this information. They're becoming knowledgeable, and they're making better choices.
Yeah.
And that's what will change all of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. So how is it? So the system. It's basically. Are you saying the woman's agenda that therefore is like wanting to be heard, trusting their intuition? Is that what you mean?
I do, and I think our whole system is not. It's not only not conducive to that, but it actually kind of disenfranchises women from even thinking that way. Yeah. It's, the doctor sitting in the big chair telling them what to do, not engaging in a partnership. I think it's a partnership in your health. I'm just here to be the guide to help you make the decisions that make sense to you. Mm. And I think more and more people are making better and better decisions. And you mentioned your son. Our children are our future. And what are we feeding them in the schools? We can do such a better job, but there are all these foodies coming. My daughter's become a foodie. All these children are. They want to do better. They want it. And they're going to change the world as far as how we deliver food. And it's exciting to see them being empowered.
Well, and the internet is a double-edged sword. So my son has tonsil stones, and he's had, severe allergies this whole time. He went to an allergist. They're like, we can't find anything. And I was like, okay. And my son's like, are you telling me that, like, I wake up with a sore throat every day and that's nothing? Like, I know the ear, nose, and throat doctor and the allergist said I have nothing. So you're telling me that the thing that I'm feeling every day is nothing. And I was like, well, all I'm saying is that the regular medical doctors can't find anything. So he is like scoured the internet and found something that works great. He's like, I don't care what these doctors told me. Like, I know myself, and I have a sore throat when I wake up in the morning, and it's an issue. And, God bless him. He found a solution because he's like, I know doctors are supposed to know these things, but they don't, and they don't know everything, and so I had to find my own solution.
Well, as you mentioned, Dr. Google it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because you can get led down a rabbit hole just as easily as you can get the answer. But why would you not look there when you don't get an answer from your doctor? And if it's a pretty safe thing to try, you really don't have a lot to lose.
Yeah.
But just be a little careful about the information. Look for some trusted sources. And again, there's more and more good information out there. And what I tell my clients, because I see a lot of really complicated people that I'm the 15th doctor they see.
Yes.
They call me the resort doctor, not because I live in Jackson Hole, but because I'm their last resort.
Right.
They'll say, I'm not going to another doctor.
Right.
And I'll ask myself, well, what do you think is going on? Oh, well, I did this research last year when I saw the 11th doctor, and this is what I think it is. Like, well, maybe we should explore that because you might be right. But there's most likely someone in the world that's a doctor that thinks and cares like I do, and a patient with their problem that they figured this out.
Right.
We just need to find them.
Right.
So, there's very few people who have the only thing that's ever happened to people is their problem. It's usually a combination, and someone's figured it out. So we just have to dig deeper.
Yeah.
And I'm very determined. I work hard for my patients.
I just experienced that with hormones because I was actually waking up every night, sweating, and I was like, this is actually affecting my quality of life because I'm like getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep because I'm waking up, I'm sweating, I'm like ripping off my covers, I'm freezing, I'm putting on my covers. I was like, this is ridiculous. And so I went to find about hormones, and the only doctors that were willing to do this was like, I talked to my regular medical doctor, and she's like, all right, for like, I'm 55. She said, until you're like 60, I'm like, the reports show that there's hardly any risk of giving you estrogen and progesterone. But beyond that, like, I think we can't really go this route. And whereas I went to my functional medicine doctor and they said, actually, hormones are so critical to your whole overall system. You need to be taking something. And I was like, well, I don't know what to think, but but sadly, maybe this is bad. I filled out one of these surveys. So you have one of these surveys, and I filled it out, and I was like, what the hey, man? Like, that was so long. I'm like, just give me the hormones. Just give me the estrogen and progesterone. And 5 years from now, I'll go through and understand what's going on. But I'm assuming that probably wasn't the right thing to do. But tell
Well,
me what you think about hormones, and because it's something for women specifically that happens all the time, and it's related to heart health, which I was kind of
yes.
surprised.
Well, hormones are a double-edged sword. And I think that we got misinformed because we did a huge trial called the WHI trial on oral synthetic hormones.
Yep.
And the only thing I can tell you for certainty is horse estrogen in a pill is not a good idea for most women.
Right.
That's why I'm a big fan of the bioidenticals. The studies are just they're difficult because they'll never be done by a pharmaceutical company because there's no money in it. But it just
Um,
makes sense to me that you'd give a woman the same kind of hormone her body makes in a low dose that the skin absorbs and skips the whole metabolism through the gut and the liver. So I'm a big fan of bioidenticals for the right person. I've been certified each year for 25 years in bioidentical hormones
mhm.
for men and women. I'm trying now not to use them unless I have to, but
Hmm.
for the shortest time in the lowest amount in the safest way.
Right.
Most women, their vitality is just better when their hormones are balanced. So it doesn't make sense to take a hormone if you're not eating clean, having good gut health, avoiding toxicity, managing your
Uh,
stress. You've got to, that's what the book is all about. Do all of those other things, and then your low level of hormones may be more efficient and they work better. So your hot flashes go away, your mood is better.
yes.
But we do know most women, when their hormones are balanced, they just plain feel better, their heart risk is lower, and their dementia risk is lower as well.
Yeah, I just saw that recent report on the dementia as well. So I'm clean. Like I'm like I work out all the time. So interesting. Okay, so I got a question. So what I'm hearing about hormones though, that I'm hearing you say, and this is what I actually interviewed another doctor about hormones, and she was saying that with hormones, there's so many other things. You have to actually get the stress levels down. So like there's so many things that we do in terms of our nutrition, exercise, stress levels that will affect hormones more than like taking more hormones. So what I'm hearing you say is get clean. Still got an issue, yes. Okay, then like go in and figure out what the lowest dosage is, how and how long you should be taking it, et cetera, because hormones are helpful. Do you have an idea on how many like do you my doctor is like 60, but does it depend on the person?
Well, I think for women, 60 is the new 50, right?
Right.
I think women are taking such good care of themselves that, you know, I got passed at the ski hill by a 71-year-old the other day. So, it's really beautiful to see. And we have a
Yeah.
unique community in Jackson Hole, but they're everywhere. There are
Yeah.
so many empowered women. So I don't think it's a number. And I encourage everybody listening not to consider yourself a number, but again, back to the whole system. What's your story? What's unique about you? What are your health challenges? What's happened to you? What's your stress? How's your nutrition? What is your family history?
Right.
Now, there is a risk to hormones. They do cause blood clots, particularly the oral ones. So
Hmm.
we test people for that before we give it to them.
Hmm.
I've never had a blood clot from hormones. So
Hmm.
you want to be really smart about how you use them. And CJ, there's a lot of people doing hormone therapy, and there's a lot of people not doing it that well
Hmm.
because they discovered anti-aging and hormone medicine and regenerated their careers. So really find someone, if you're considering hormones, that really knows what they're doing. Look for a functional medicine doctor or someone who has a lot of experience in hormone management. Don't look for the cheapest visit you can find. And if someone's just going to throw hormones at you and throw you the kitchen sink at you, have a step back and see if that's maybe
Yeah, I
not the
know,
right.
because there was one doctor who's like, I recommend getting your hormone levels back to the age when you're 26 and taking them until you're 92. I'm like, that didn't sound right to
It
me.
doesn't sound right.
No. Okay, so we had two questions from listeners. One wanted to know. So we talked about supplements. We talked about the 5 supplements that you recommend, and then they were asking, well, how long do I take the supplements? And there are all sorts of like I've had like supplements for my knee, and like I take them when I have knee problems, and then I stop taking them. I've been taking these supplements throughout my whole life because, as you said, that the nutritions and nutritional needs and things based on the soil, et cetera, are not right there. But do you recommend taking them for your life, or how long do you take the supplements for? Or does it depend,
That's
or
a
is it
great
a
question.
double-edged sword? which is
It is,
what.
and it's unique for everybody and every supplement. For
Uh,
example, echinacea, which has some great studies for colds to help people with viruses and an infection like a cold. But if you take echinacea every day, it doesn't work when you need it. So there are
oh,
some
interesting.
supplements that seem to only work when you need them. Vitamin C is another one that I think is a good supplement to use, even on a daily basis. But don't take high doses. But when you feel a cold coming, then increase the dose, and it seems
Mm,
to work better that way.
mhm.
But again, most women and men are just deficient because of the stresses in our life, the toxicity in our life, our quality of food and soils. So I do think that most people benefit from a good multivitamin. When I first came to Jackson, the intensive care nurses said, "Oh my gosh, we have this new nutrition doctor. What do you think of these?" And they held out a bedpan and it rattled. They were the leading multivitamin that had gone all the way through someone into the bedpan. They called them bedpan bullets. They have 46 other ingredients holding the vitamin together, and they don't even dissolve in the body in most people.
Oh
So
my
uh,
gosh.
it's all about quality. And I like to
Wow.
take a supplement holiday. I think it's periodically good for your body not to
Yeah.
see them and just
Interesting.
take a little bit of a break. And I think though, in today's world, it's almost impossible to get all your nutritional needs. And we do a test that looks at your micronutrients. It looks at 36 nutrients to see, are your cells getting the information they need in your nutrition? And if not, what can you eat that might boost them up before you turn to a supplement? But
Interesting.
most of us in the fast-paced life, we just benefit from having all of those doors
Right.
closed.
Yeah. So you do supplement free for what reason? So you have a supplement holiday for what reason?
And, there's no data on it. It's just something that I've been doing for 25 years.
Yeah.
It just feels good. And what I find is that I'll say, you know what, let's take a break from the supplements, but let's try to teach you to do some guided imagery, or let's do a gratitude journal. So I try to get my clients to do one thing as we let go of another.
Yeah.
So it's all about, when you make one step and feel better, you're willing to make another step. And so when people come
Uh,
in for nutrition, the last thing I say is, you know what, we're going to go casein free, whey free, corn free, almond free, gluten free, gliadin free, and you can only eat this.
right.
I tell them, you know what? Could you do one of our protein shakes? Do a milkshake for breakfast and just don't eat bread till I see you in 2 weeks.
Right. Okay,
Easy,
that's
right?
easy. That's super easy.
And most people will feel better if you do a high quality protein shake for breakfast.
Right.
You get most of the dairy and egg products out of the way. You get most of the bread out of the way. Don't worry about gluten. Just don't eat bread.
Right.
A slice of a bread or a muffin or a bagel, every slice of bread product is equal to a can of soda pop as far as
What?
sugar load on your body.
Wow.
Even that 9 grain whole wheat bread, a sliced
Wow.
muffin or a bagel is equal to a sugar load of a can of soda.
Okay,
So,
that's shocking to me because it says a certain amount of sugar on the outside of the package. But you're saying, but what the body does in terms of how it converts it into sugar is that the same as a pop, like a
yeah,
Coke.
a good example, CJ, is a glass of juice. If you take 6 oranges and eat them, all the fiber and pulp, as that sugar hits your gut, it slowly goes to the liver for sugar metabolism. But as you drink a glass of juice, all that sugar goes right from your gut and bum rushes the liver and dumps this huge sugar load. And bread is the same way. The way our body sees that carbohydrate, it's just a fast download of sugar into the liver. And
Right.
those are the things we want to avoid.
Right. So, one person just wrote, I thought you're saying that those are good for you, like almonds, because you talked about almond free and like, so what's going on? I thought like whole wheat bread, I mean, it's not good for you, but it's better than the white bread. But are you saying better no bread at all?
Well, again, for some people, gluten is an issue, but not everybody.
Yeah.
In general, if you're trying to drop a few pounds, if you just get rid of bread for 2 weeks, you might find that that pesky extra 5 pounds just magically goes away.
Right.
So it's kind of an easy. What I was talking about the almond is so many times in nutrition, we try to make it too hard and have people do all these nutrition changes
Ah, I see.
the first day. I just tell them, you know what? Just don't eat bread for 2 weeks till your lab tests are back. And
Right.
if I can twist your arm to do one more thing, try this yummy protein shake and make that your breakfast. Those are the two nutrition things that have changed more people's health than anything nutrition I've ever done.
Is that
And
because people don't eat breakfast, and when they do eat breakfast, like those nutritions have like the right protein, vitamins, all those things?
when the big thing is intermittent fasting, and there's definitely some wisdom to it. I don't believe in diets because the first 3 letters are
Die.
die. So I believe in personalized nutrition plans. Like with your son,
Right.
do a food sensitivity test and see what foods his body absorbs well and what foods drive inflammation. Those
Right.
kind of things are game changers for so many people.
Right.
Let's personalize your nutrition, not put you on the latest diet.
Right. Okay. There was another question that came in asking about gut health. Tell us about gut health and how that relates. And there's a whole chapter in this book. I've been talking to Dr. Mark about his book, Heart Solution for Women. There's a whole chapter on gut, on hormones, on there's a lot of stuff on supplements in here. I mean, almost everything we've talked about is in this book. I'm pretty sure because I did a good read of it, a good skim of it. Okay, so tell us about gut health and
Well,
how it's
the
related.
gut, we call it the second brain. It may actually be the first brain, but
Mm,
there are more bacterial cells in your gut than human cells in your body. Half the DNA in your body, it's not yours. It's this crazy microbiome that lives in your gut. And so you essentially have a straw going through you. Here's one end, down there's the other end, and it's one cell thick in many places. That's all that's separating this outer environment from your inner environment.
wow.
So it's critically important that the gut maintains its health because of that bacterial diversity, because of its job is to take food and make energy for you. So a lot of people have immune dysfunction, have energy problems, have hormone problems, have heart problems, have dementia problems because the gut is inflamed, the gut's not absorbing, or the gut is allowing toxins to be absorbed. So
Mm,
if you can heal the gut, a lot of things magically get better. And so
mm,
it's one of the easy things to do. And in functional medicine, we always say, if you're not sure what to do, go with the gut first. And I think of the gut, liver, hormone, adrenal, thyroid. It's this beautiful symphony for a woman. The pituitary is the conductor of your hormones. She talks to your thyroid, which is a butterfly here. Your adrenals are little walnuts on top of your kidneys. They interact with your female hormones. They're all controlled by the gut. And if you get all of those lined up, really good health sings in the symphony for women. If any one of them is off, you just don't feel right. But
right.
get the gut healthy first.
Okay, and so how do you know if you have a clean gut? Someone just asked.
Look in the mirror. If you've got acne, acne is usually a dairy sensitivity and a gut inflammation. Rosacea, psoriasis, autoimmune disease, a lot of these are now being tied to bad bacteria imbalances in the gut and having poor absorption in the gut. On the back of your arm, you get little bumps, which is a type of dermatitis that
Yes.
dermatologists have some Latin name for. But why is it there? And a lot of times, what happens in the gut can show up in the joints, on the skin, or other places of the body, and we label it as a disease, but we don't tell you why it's there.
Ah,
Are
that's
you
interesting.
ruddy in the cheeks? Do you have little skin tags on your eyelids? Do you have what the dreaded buffalo hump, which is an insulin resistance fat pad on the back of the neck? Are your nails, do you have little white spots, which are zinc deficiency? Are they ridged with little lines, which is poor absorption?
Right.
So there's so many hints that the body can tell us about what's going on with the gut. And if
Mm.
it's off, nothing else is going to work right.
Okay, and so what are some things that we can do to create a healthy gut then?
Well, it's about food as medicine. We talk about the prebiotics, which are the things in our fiber, in our vegetables and fruits that feed the probiotics, which are the good bacteria that live there.
Mm.
I kind of think of the gut as this beautiful rainforest in the Amazon.
Hmm.
You've got to have the ferns and the orchids and the pines, and there's got to be a couple weeds there too. But if it gets scorched and burned by a bunch of antibiotics, all you have is weeds. So you've got to
Ah,
nurture that rainforest. You've got to protect it, and you've got to help to restore it when it gets knocked out.
okay, so there are all these little pills that you can do to resume the health of your gut, right? I know you just said eat healthy, like a forest of, colorful fruits and vegetables. I heard you. And then I've seen like little pills that you can take, and I can see kombucha that I can just like drink. They even have alcoholic kombucha instead of drinking beer. I'm like,
I love
wow,
that.
okay, awesome. And then there's all these yogurts with all these different things, all these different types of yogurts, yogurt drinks. Um, do those things help, or just eat healthy, people? I mean, or is there other things that we can do? Those other things make a difference.
Well, it is America and it is capitalism, so they're going to take a good idea and make as much money on it as possible.
Yes.
You know, probiotics, many people benefit from one. And here's a great pearl is that a lot of people think you need a probiotic when you take an antibiotic. But if
Yes.
you take them at the same time of day, they cancel each other out. So if you really
Ah,
are sick and need an antibiotic, take the antibiotic. If you want to take a probiotic, it's a good idea, but do it middle of the
Oh, middle.
hours away from your antibiotic, or the antibiotic may not work.
Wait, hours after your pro. Say
Yeah,
that again.
typically an antibiotic is twice a day, so
Yes.
do it morning and night, and do your probiotic at lunch. My other
Oh,
favorite supplement is glutamine.
yes.
Glutamine is a powder typically. It works better as a powder than the capsules. You put a teaspoon of water and take it between meals or before meals. Glutamine is an amino acid. It's in your food anyway, but it's a specific amino acid that the cells of the body use to bind themselves together to protect that barrier. And so in all of the programs, when I do gut healing, glutamine and a high quality probiotic are always the leaders in the first thing that we do.
Interesting. So that, but you would be looking at the symptomatic things on the outside, the skin, the bumps on the arms, the little fingernail things. Usually people, when I go to a Chinese doctor, say, okay, what's your poop looking like? That's basically, isn't that the simpler way of doing it? Or is that,
It's poop, tongue, and nails. That's what the Chinese doctors will
okay.
ask. And guess what? There's a lot of information. We in medicine, we're taught to rely on tests so much. We don't listen to people. We don't look at people. We don't hear the story. And a lot of times, if you use those clues that are taught in the natural medicines, the physical exam is a lost art, and you can learn so much of it. Michael Stone is the faculty member of the Institute for Functional Medicine that teaches this. And there's so many pearls there that if you just listen to people and look at them, 90% of what you need to know is right there without doing tests.
Yeah, that's like the Ayurvedic way. That's what they
Exactly.
focus on. Okay, we've been talking to Dr. Mark Menolascino about his book, Heart Solution for Women, and everything we talked about, including a very in-depth assessment with like ideas on what to do when you have them, are in his book. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.